biography of Srila Prabhupada called Sadhu in a Strange Land. And each one of them tells of Srila Prabhupada from various points of view. It's like if I put a bowl of fruit in the middle of the floor and I asked everybody in here to draw it, right? It would always come out different because the bananas are over here and the apples are over here, so they're going to draw the apples and you're going to draw the bananas. But you're drawing the same fruit. And Prabhupada was a multifaceted personality. He had certain traits which were basically outstanding to everybody, but he had many different ways of dealing with different people in different situations. If you look at Harisari's Prabhupada, you'll see someone who's very strong and very strict and very precise in his order. If you look at Shrutikirti's Prabhupada, in his book, What is the Difficulty, you see a different Prabhupada. You see a Prabhupada that says, what is the difficulty? And he laughs a lot, slaps his leg and laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs and makes jokes and takes everything very lightly. Of course, he still has his standards and he still has his preaching, but in general, he's a lighthearted person. And that's one side of Srila Prabhupada. And then there's some people who talk about Prabhupada in this book. It talks about Prabhupada several times shedding tears. Tears of gratitude, tears of concern for his young disciples who are struggling with the three modes of material nature. When devotees would leave, Prabhupada would cry that so many pints of blood have been spent on bringing this person to Krishna consciousness, and perhaps by our stupidity or by our neglect, we've caused that person to leave now. And he was very sad. Even sometimes he said, at all costs, you must bring that person back. So Prabhupada had many different facets. Even here you see he's studying the books in two different places. In one place he's laughing. He's looking at the hellish planets, by the way. And he's laughing, right? Sometimes we look at the hellish planets and we think, that's not very funny, is it? Not exactly something you laugh at. But that's what Prabhupada's doing there. He's looking at the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and he's looking at the hellish planets and he's laughing. And then in the other picture he's reading his books, but he's very serious, very grave. Maybe he's looking, he would read his own books every day, and he would also listen to his own lectures. And he would get inspiration from reading his own books, because he said that the purports of his books were not written by him. They were written by Krishna. And Krishna spoke through him. And he was just writing an instrument. He was writing those purports. So Srila Prabhupada, even in these two little pictures, he has two different personalities. I remember some devotee came, some sannyasi brought one young woman who had come to Vrindavan. He brought her to my room so that I could speak with her. She looked about my room, and I have pictures of Srila Prabhupada smiling. I like pictures of Srila Prabhupada smiling. And she said, oh, it's so nice to come in your room and see all these pictures of Prabhupada smiling. She said, sometimes I go places and Prabhupada's so grave. And it scares me, she said, but I like when I see Srila Prabhupada smiling. So there's many different sides of Prabhupada. And when we meet different devotees who have had experience with Srila Prabhupada and who have worked with Srila Prabhupada in different capacities, who've served Prabhupada in different ways, they all bring to us another aspect of Srila Prabhupada. And so it's very important, more now than ever before, that we get that opportunity to understand Srila Prabhupada from many different angles and to understand his books. And tonight we're going to explore that a little bit. So here I was talking about different generations. So the first generation is Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. And Srila Prabhupada was a unique personality. He came on a mission at 65 years old, even a little older than that actually, 68 years old. He came in 1965 on a boat, and he came to a country where he had no experience. There was no Google, there was no phones. He came basically sight unseen. He had no money. He had a couple of cases of Srimad Bhagavatam, first volume that he had printed in India. And the books were very heavy because they were hand bound with heavy cardboard and hand wrapped in heavy cloth. And so he carried 2 trunks of these books. And that was basically all he had. He brought a little cereal because he had been told that he wouldn't have anything to eat when he came to America. And it would be very cold there, so he had a coat also. Srimati Maharaji had somebody go out and buy him a coat because she was afraid. She said, Prabhupada, Swami, you're going to go there and you're going to die because it's so cold, and what will you eat? And you're too old to do this thing. But Prabhupada was fixed, and he was very determined. And so finally she agreed, and she gave him passage on a ship, and he came. And he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that's Prabhupada. He's our first generation of American or Western or non-residing in India Hare Krishna devotees. First generation. Then we look at the second generation. That's his direct disciples. So we have many people now who are initiated by Srila Prabhupada, who had a lot of association with him, who traveled with him, who got instruction from him. There are many people who were in that category that are no longer with us. Many in just the last 3 or 4 years, probably 20, 25 of my godbrothers and godsisters have left the planet.
One recently, Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Yeah, yeah. Krishna Das. Many Brahmananda was a stalwart. Yeah, Krishna Das. Brahmananda was a stalwart. He had so much association with Prabhupada, and he left us, and he never wrote his memories down. And we lost Jamuna, and so many wonderful devotees that some I didn't even know. Sarabi Maharaj, who I did know, who was the architect of the Vrindavan and the Bombay ISKCON Hotel Temple, where we're going. He was the architect. He just left recently. Many devotees. Kamarupa just left us recently. Ayendra just left us fairly recently. So many devotees are already gone, and many more will lead. My mother, when my mother was getting older, I would call her regularly, and I'd ask her, how is it going? And she would say, oh, I had a good week this week. I didn't have many funerals. So this is, when you get older, that's kind of the norm, that you just, all your friends are leaving, all your relatives are leaving, and like Prabhupada said, he said, all that's left is a list of names. So we have his direct disciples now, and then there's the third generation, which the disciples of his disciples, which is some of you, right? You're initiated by Prabhupada's direct disciples. And then there's a fourth generation who will take initiation from the disciple of his disciples, right? We may have some of those here. But definitely we have third generation here. And since the first generation has already left and the second generation is on the way out, it makes it particularly important for the third generation to take advantage of whatever they can to find out as much about Prabhupada as possible and fill in the gaps that the second generation has information on, right? They were there directly, so they know when he was laughing, when he was crying, when he said something seriously, when he said, I'll explain further in a minute. So we have 4 categories to consider in relation to these 4 generations. The first one is issues. We always have issues. You have issues, we have tissues. There's always issues, right? We're always coming up with new things that we realize that we don't know how to deal with them. Should women give initiation in ISKCON? Should second generation devotees give initiation in ISKCON? Should third generation devotees give ISKCON? Then now there's some sannyasis of the third generation who are their spiritual masters. Our second generation, they're still alive, and there's some question whether they should be allowed to initiate. So all these things come up, and we have to find the solutions. There's many different questions that arise. I'm sure even in your yatra there are questions. How do you get the answers? We need to make decisions. So we look to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and we look to the instructions of other devotees to find the information necessary to understand what to do to resolve the issues. We have the context in which those instructions were given, which is extremely relevant. We'll talk about that in a little while. Because, for instance, just a quick example, Srutakirti Prabhu was just recently at a program with me in Montreal. And he was telling, every night he was telling stories about Prabhupada. He's an endless wealth of little vignettes about Srila Prabhupada. He served Prabhupada for 2 years as his servant. So he was saying once there was a devotee, his name is Paramahansa, he was 19 years old when Prabhupada gave him sannyas. And it was a thing that he never even thought about. Prabhupada called him in the room and said, "What are you doing?" And he was just a young brahmachari. And he said, "Well, I'm traveling, preaching." Prabhupada said, "Where are you preaching?" And he said, "Oh, I've been going here and there, and I'm going to Vietnam." And when he said he was going to Vietnam, Prabhupada's eyes got really big, and he said, "Whoa, you're preaching in Vietnam," because there was a war going on in Vietnam. And so Prabhupada said, "That's very dedicated, maybe you should take sannyas." So then he didn't know exactly what to do with that. He was 19 years old, sannyas, what does that mean? And so Prabhupada told him, you go to the temple, and you pray to the deities and see what they say. You know, if you think it's a good idea, if you want to take sannyas, I'll give you sannyas. So he thought about it, he decided yes, he took sannyas, and he traveled around for a long time, and after a little while he found himself as Prabhupada's servant. He was a very tall man, and he came into Prabhupada's room every day, and he would offer his dandavats. And he'd say many, many prayers when he was down on the floor. Sometimes he'd be down there for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, just saying prayers. So after 3 days, Shrutakirti said it took Prabhupada always watched things for 3 days before he said anything. So 3 days, he was watching him, and then finally he said, "Get up already." He said, "How are you ever going to get anything done if you lay on the floor for so long and chant all those prayers?" So here we're laughing, and we can tell because Shrutakirti Prabhu was there, and he tells it to us that it was done in a jovial mood. It was very loving. His relationship with this boy was very loving. And his attitude was very light. But some years later, we may hear the story and someone may say, "Well, Prabhupada said," did you ever hear that? Prabhupada said we shouldn't offer a lot of prayers when we bow down. Okay, so then we hear that, and Prabhupada did say that, but he said it in a laughing mood. He was joking. It was a particular situation. And if we take away that context, and we take away that intention that he was just joking with this young devotee, then we get a whole different picture of what Prabhupada said. Even if we have the words that Prabhupada said, if we don't have the context and we don't have the intention, we can make a mistake. We can get confused. Actually, in communication theory, only 7% of communication takes place about what we say. The rest of communication takes place in body language and how we say it. So if we take those things away, we don't have body language, we don't have how we said it, we only have what he said, then if we don't fill in the context and the intention, we wind up maybe having some difficulty. And I'll give you some examples in a minute. So we still have issues, right? We have plenty of issues. We have initiation issues, Diksha Shiksha issues, Varnashram issues, preaching issues. Should we do it with innovative ways? Should we do it traditionally? Should we unite? Should we divide? Should we, there's so many.
Should we do version 2?
Yeah. So there's so many issues. There's so many issues, gives a headache. See, even this guy has a headache. And we have so many issues that continuously come up. We have lots of instructions. Prabhupada left us so many instructions. He left us his books, his lectures, his conversations, his letters, his personal instructions to individual devotees. We have all these things. Prabhupada was very recorded. Right? There's hardly anything that Prabhupada said that wasn't recorded by somebody. Even though we didn't have iPhones and we didn't take his picture every 3 seconds, we did record a lot of what Srila Prabhupada said. People were walking with him with this big recording device, and they were trying as much as possible to record what he said. So we have many, many of his lectures and his room conversations, and pretty much most of them are of pretty good quality. You can make out everything. And we had lots of letters. I don't know what Prabhupada would have done if there was email. Fortunately for him, there were no computers. There was no email. I can't even imagine what he would have done. Because as it was, we all sent him letters, and those letters followed him around until he got somewhere, and where they would catch up with him, and then he'd get so many letters, and he'd spend an hour or 2 hours every day just answering snail mail letters, little blue aerograms that would come. And when you would get a little blue aerogram in the mail in America somewhere, it was like everyone's letter. It wasn't just your letter. It couldn't, don't think that it was your letter. You might have gotten to open it, maybe. But even after you got to open it, it was no question of reading it privately. It was just, it was a public, everyone was there, everyone wanted to know, what did Prabhupada say, So there were a lot of letters, and we have books of those letters, and some people's letters aren't even in those books, really. But most of us got letters from Prabhupada, we still have those letters. And then there's personal instructions that Prabhupada spoke to individuals, just like he spoke to this boy. And he spoke to other people, and those personal instructions aren't necessarily recorded anywhere, except in the hearts and minds of the second generation devotees. So we have those instructions. The context, that how or what or who and when and where and what was the circumstance that Prabhupada said this? What was the time? What was the place? What was the circumstance? What made Prabhupada say it? Why did he say it the way he said it? Who did he say it to? All these things are less clear. We don't have any necessarily too much of a record of that. We have the letters Prabhupada wrote, but we don't have the letters that people wrote to Prabhupada that say the question that Prabhupada was answering. We have to kind of fill in the blanks. And then we don't know why Prabhupada said it. What was his will? What was he thinking he wanted to accomplish? What was his mood when he said it? Was he laughing? Was he angry? Was he serious? What was his mood when he said it? And what was the desired purpose when he said it? What did he want to achieve when he said it? And we in order to get these things, we have to explore deeply. We can't just superficially read. We need to find out, fill in the information by looking at the big picture. And that involves study. So the second generation, hearing from Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples, the intention is missing a little bit or fading because intention's in someone's head, and sometimes that's not so clear, and must be reconstructed by knowing the instruction and finding the content in which it was given. So different disciples were there. We talked to them. I remember once in Alachua, there are many Prabhupada disciples. So one year before Vyasa Puja, for 1 week before Vyasa Puja, all the Prabhupada disciples that were together in different places met. So one night we had all the disciples from the West Coast. One night we had all the disciples from the East Coast. One night we had all the people who were with Prabhupada in Vrindavan. One night we had all the people with Prabhupada in Mayapur. So we had 7 nights in a row. We had different people. And we were sharing stories together. People who had been in different years, different times, but basically just got to serve in a certain place. And as we were sharing the stories, we learned things that we didn't know before, right? Someone said, oh yes, Prabhupada did that, and then he left, and I was there just after he left, and that's how that got there. And that's why that was like that. And just in talking, all of us together, we put things together. Different stories became revealed to us in total. We kind of understood them. So that's kind of what we have to do now. And by reading all the different stories that different devotees write about Prabhupada, what we find is that they describe a certain incident and they add a little something, their point of view, what they saw, how Prabhupada spoke, or what he said, why, when. And in that way we put everything together. But sometimes if we lack clarity, it may lead to arguments. One person says he did this, and the other person says, no, he meant this. And then we get into arguments, and sometimes divergent points of view get stifled and confused. So we have this experience when we're trying to figure out the issue of Diksha Shiksha, because Prabhupada hardly ever talked about how Shiksha Guru-ness would apply within our society. But he did say that Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus were equal representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we have the example of Krishnadas Kaviraj, who in the Chaitanya Charitamrita offers so many obeisances to all his gurus that you hardly know which one is his Diksha Guru. You don't even know which one it is. We know because somewhere it's said, but in his words, you never know. He just offers obeisances to so many gurus at the beginning, all my gurus. So we know about Shiksha Guru from sources, but Prabhupada never told us how to implement it within our society. So now there's this discussion going on. And different people have different points of view, and sometimes some of the points of view don't get heard. And so there's a little bit of confusion, and we need to sort it out. And then the third generation, which is all of you, now, ultimately, eventually, you will be standing alone, and the second generation will be gone. And can I ask you to not shine that light in my face? I'm sorry, I don't like cameras. Please forgive me.
I didn't see that. The torch was on.
Okay, so makes me think of the doctor, looking in my nose and my throat and my ears. So eventually the third generation, you folks, will be standing alone because the second generation will be gone. And that's kind of scary.
It is.
It is. So because you're direct disciples of Prabhupada, and the direct disciples of Prabhupada, their days are numbered. And some of them will have more days than others. Some will be around a very long time. They'll be lived to be 120. And some of them are already gone. So we don't know exactly when they'll leave. We don't know what's happening there. But we do know that, like Prabhupada said, if things go normally, Prabhupada was once saying, I'm an old man, I could die at any moment. And one of the devotees said, well, Prabhupada, we could all die at any moment, right? I could die at any moment. Even though I'm much younger than you, I could die at any moment. And some of Prabhupada's disciples did leave before him, like Jayananda Prabhu, Vishnu Jan. And so some devotees left before Srila Prabhupada did. But Prabhupada's answer was, if the circumstances go normally, you'll live beyond me. I'll leave before you do. So if the circumstances go normally, then we, the disciples, the third generation, will remain after the second generation of their gurus, and Guru Bhai will leave. And so they will have to they'll be missing the context and intention, but they have to reconstruct it by finding out memories, by hearing from their gurus and their association, as much as possible, getting as much association from those second generation people, because they are leaving. And that's why I said it's a particularly bad time for devotees to not get association from as many senior devotees as possible. It's a very bad time to say doors are closed, sorry, you can't come here.
So now get the best you can.
Get as many people as you can here, as much as
Absolutely.
you can. Ask your questions.
Yes.
Whatever questions you have, ask them. Write them down. Find the answers, because the opportunity to explore certain avenues is not going to be there. And even if they're here, whether they'll be able to travel, it gets to you after a while, traveling. And, the body slows down, it can't go so far. And, it's just a practical problem that we have. So it must be reconstructed from memories from those who associated with direct disciples. So you may have association with your spiritual master, and your association, you'll hear from him, not only your spiritual master, but all of his God brothers and God sisters. You'll remember what he said, and then you'll pass it down to the next generation. So journal, keep it clear, yes.
Even in the third generation, there's another issue. That from a particular guru, let's say there are whatever number of disciples, not every disciple had the good fortune of a close relationship with the guru.
It's true. And
so
that was
there's a disconnect even there.
And that was even there in Prabhupada's...
There's a huge gap.
That was even there in Prabhupada's time. That, at the beginning, when we first joined in 67, 68, 69, maybe into 70, you got a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada. But then some big people came, and they kind of closed ranks, and many littler devotees, whatever that means, they didn't get to associate with Prabhupada as much. Prabhupada started traveling more. He went around the world 11 times. So he was 3 days here, 5 days here, a week there, and he was moving. And so we didn't get to see him very much, a lot of people. Some people got to see him more. I was fortunate my husband was a GBC man and I was kind of involved in other things. So traditionally in my spiritual life, I was an ISKCON devotee. I was never a devotee of a particular temple for more than a couple of years. And I was always serving around ISKCON. But many devotees were in a temple, and if Prabhupada never came there, they never saw him. Some devotees only saw him in a Bhagavatam class. They heard him give Bhagavatam class sitting in the temple room, and that was all they saw him. They didn't have any other real association with him. And so many devotees at the end, and Prabhupada left us in November 1977, but Prabhupada was quite ill from October, September, October, maybe August. He was very immobile, and he was still initiating, but he wasn't going anywhere. And many of those devotees never even really had any association with Prabhupada. They took initiation just at the very end, but they never really got association from Prabhupada. Of course, we can all associate with Prabhupada by Vani. And there's many recordings of Prabhupada speaking and many books, and as we talked about before. And that's another reason why those things, to get familiar with those things, to read, to hear, now is really important. Because let's say I'm studying the Bhagavatam or I'm studying the Chaitanya Charitamrita and I find something that I don't understand, then I can ask. Later, if I find something I don't understand, then I may be able to ask somebody, but the people available to ask now are more skilled. They've been around longer, they've had some association with Prabhupada, very likely, and so you'll get deeper answers, more clarity. And especially if you ask somebody in the third generation and they give you an answer that's confusing, then even more so do you want to ask other people and find out a more complete picture. But if you don't know what you don't know, you won't know what to ask. When Prabhupada left us, he was sick, like I said, for about 2.5 months. He was quite ill. Towards the end, he tried to go to Gitanagari. He only got as far as London, and then he came back to Vrindavan. And by the time he came back to Vrindavan, he was very ill. And so the devotees, we all knew that Prabhupada was leaving us. I mean, it was obvious by his physical countenance that he was leaving us. However, we really mentally refused to believe that he was leaving us. Even though we knew he was leaving us, we didn't really accept the fact that Prabhupada was leaving us. We kept thinking that somehow or other he would stay, he would get well. If he ate a strawberry, I remember one day he asked for a strawberry, and then everybody thought, he's decided he's going to, because he kind of told us that he could decide to stay or he could decide to go. And then ultimately he said that Krishna wanted him to leave. And because his body was just not functional anymore. But one day he asked for a strawberry, and so everybody thought, wow, or strawberries, it must mean that he's decided to stay. And so we were very reluctant to accept that he was going to go. And finally, at the end, some of the devotees started asking him questions about different things, like initiation and what to do with him and different things, with his body, etc., etc. But no one asked him the questions we have now. And if we would have thought of those questions, if we would have said to him, Prabhupada, should women initiate? Prabhupada, what's the story about Shiksha Guru should explain to us? We would have known the answer. It would have been over. None of this argument, no questions, it would have been done. But no one asked him. Because we didn't know that we didn't know. We didn't know that these things were going to come up later. We were just going ahead doing our thing, and we thought we had it covered. Don't put yourself in the same boat. Right? Know what you don't know. Study now, ask now, find out what you don't know, and as much as possible, keep asking questions until you get clarity. Because the time to do that, the margin, is less and less and less. And don't be foolish thinking that it's going to last forever, because it's not going to last forever. We've already seen it not last forever. the samadhis are growing, right? There's more samadhis. We have more samadhis in Vrindavan, more samadhis in, in Mayapur, and we even have some in the West. Bhakti Tirtha Swami has one in Gitanagari, and Tamal Krishna Goswami has one in Dallas, and there's, we need to take advantage of the time and the circumstance that we have. The fourth generation will depend completely on you. And, some of you in here, I know this is going to sound really freaky, but some of you in here may be the future gurus of our society. How does that sound? That sounds really scary.
Sounds great.
Because it's scary, isn't it? When I was teaching in the disciples course in Vrindavan just last March or something, Vedavyasa Priya Maharaj was in my class. And Vedavyasa Priya Maharaj and I go back, way back. He joined in 1977, but I know him from the first day he walked into the temple. So he was in my class, and in my class, there's a rule at the beginning that everybody in my class is equal. You can't borrow any position from sticks or anything else. So I said, Maharaj, I need you to tell me something as a student in this class. And he said, okay, yes, Mataji, what should I said, I want to know if when you became a devotee, you ever thought that you would be a guru and have disciples of your own. He said, I never thought it even for a minute. Sweets. We have a rule in my classes that if your phone rings when my class is going on, you have to buy sweets for everybody in the class. So automatically,
Switch it off quickly.
Yeah, that's what I say. Switch it on. Okay, so everybody turn on your phones. And then so automatically when I hear a phone, I go sweets. It's like mechanical. Okay, so the third generation is the generation that's going to carry this legacy. The second generation is leaving. The third generation has to carry this legacy. And you have to bring it to the fourth generation, because the fourth generation is going to not have instructions. They're not going to have the context. They're not going to have the intention. There's no direct association with any disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And eventually, they're going to have to carry the legacy. So your disciples are going to be the future of our movement. And what are they going to know? How are they going to do it? That's depending on you. It's really depending on you. So we need to kind of take that seriously. We need to be reconstructed by relevant system of education and careful study of the instructions as given in the books, lectures, etc. Because by studying what Prabhupada left us, we'll get clarity. And by studying it through his disciples, also through his books. We need to read his books. I heard this very strange statement that we're not supposed to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I really hope that wasn't ever said by anybody who knows anything about Srila Prabhupada. If Srila Prabhupada heard someone say that, I don't know what he would say, but it wouldn't be fun to listen to. I'll tell you quite frankly, that we need to study all of Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada said it over and over and over again, that we need to study Srila Prabhupada. Not even just read them. Reading them is one thing. Studying them is another thing. Reading them for 5 minutes while you're laying in bed before you go to sleep and the book falls on the floor, that's one thing, Okay, do that if you want. But reading them, studying them, trying to get the big picture, because Prabhupada says one thing here, he says another thing here, he says another thing here. And in order to be honest and have what we're going to call academic integrity, you really have to understand everything Prabhupada said. And you have to understand why he said it and where he said it and how it fits in to the big picture, so that we can honestly understand what Prabhupada wanted. So here's a diagram of what we've just been talking to, and ignore the thermostat. So we have the first generation has everything. The second generation, context and intention, starts to fade. The third generation everybody has issues, notice.
Yeah.
The issues are there for everybody. There's something that's going to come up that we didn't plan on that someone's going to have to figure out.
Right.
Because the society is constantly changing,
Right.
just like I was talking in Doha, and they have a unique set of problems that they face there. You have a unique set of problems that you
Right.
face here. And in various places, there's situations which cause concerns that have to be addressed. In the West, we have our, the Krishna West and Krishna East fight going on. So there's always issues. Everybody's got issues. And the instructions, we have many of the instructions, much of the instructions, but if you don't read, if you don't study Prabhupada's messages, then the instructions will fade also. You won't know what the heck is going on if you don't read. And then the context disappears and then the intention also fades. So we need to put it together now while we can. And so there is nothing to be said new. Whatever I have to speak, I have spoken in my books. Now you try to understand it and continue your endeavor. I shall never die. I shall live forever in my books. Now this was said in May of 1977. Prabhupada left in November of 1977. Okay, so notice how these books include the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they include the Bhagavad Gita, and all Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada told us to read the Nectar of Devotion 7 times. And one thing that's interesting to note is that Bhagavad Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's an incarnation of Krishna.
Yep.
It's not just a book. It's an incarnation of Krishna. And of course, by associating with Krishna, we get self-realization, we get enlivened in spiritual life. And this verse, I'm sure you all know, the Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has risen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion and knowledge. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So Prabhupada says you must study very scrutinizingly all the books, so that when the need arises, you can repeat in your own words their purport. As much as possible, read, chant, and preach. This is our life and soul. If we keep to this simple formula, then there is no doubt that we will be victorious wherever we go, and very soon will become the only religion in the world. Now, you don't want to say that out loud here because you'll probably get arrested, but it's a nice thought. Therefore, I recommend you to read books more and more and try to understand the subject matter from different angles of vision, and be always discussing it with your God brothers. And when you are working and you cannot read, then listen to the tapes of my lectures and hear in that way. In my books, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is explained fully. So if there is anything which you do not understand, then you simply have to read again and again. By reading daily, the knowledge will be revealed to you, and by this process, your spiritual life will develop. Now, that's another factor, right? That Krishna says in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that to show them special mercy, I dwelling within their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So these voids that we have can be filled by Krishna himself. If we take shelter of the books in a proper consciousness, the books will speak to us. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are not just library books. They're living books. And they speak to us. If we read them in the proper mentality, they will speak to us. One who has got unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and similar faith in his spiritual master, to him only the imports of Vedic knowledge become revealed. So if we read with faith, unflinching faith that Krishna is in those books, that Prabhupada is in those books, then we listen to our spiritual master, we hear guidance from him, we can understand what we need to know in order to carry on this movement. Okay, so now, if there's any questions on this, let's take them now, because now we're going to go into something else. So
this is the exact point I had thought of when you were saying we have issues and then how are we going to deal with it. This is the point I thought of when you just mentioned it.
Okay.
Krishna will reveal to us in our heart.
Risha,
If we read sincerely and study Prabhupada's books,
if we read sincerely and we study Prabhupada's books, Krishna will reveal it to us. And the reality is that we need to come together in a unified way and discuss these things.
Haribol.
Because if we don't, You think you know because Krishna talked to you in your heart. But Krishna talked to him in his heart and said something else. And who's going to win? There's got to be a discussion. There's got to be a synthesis. That's why Prabhupada created the GBC. Not the GBC that we have now, the body of the GBC. 36 or 30, there's a 40 cap on it now. So potentially 40 senior advanced devotees putting their heads together and trying to get clarity. Because Prabhupada didn't want any one person coming out and saying, I had a revelation and I mean, that's why there's so many different kinds of, within a religion, like the Protestant tradition, right? The Protestant tradition broke away from the Catholic tradition and said every individual has a personal relationship with God and therefore has the right to interpret the scripture the way they want. And in one sense, we kind of agree with that, sort of, except for the parampara, which is very important to us, that disciplic succession. But you know how many kinds of Protestant churches there are? There are as many as you have hair on your head. And each one of them has a difference, and each one of them hates the other one. So what is the use of that? We don't want to create that kind of a situation. We don't want guru groups. We don't want factions. That's why Prabhupada created the GBC. He saw what happened to the Gaudiya Math when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left the planet. He told them, start a GBC. They didn't listen. And immediately after he left, within days, there was fighting and factions and things. So yes, Krishna will reveal to us certain truths, and that is very valuable to us. But sometimes for the functioning of a society, Prabhupada wanted us to be a society. That's our sacrifice. He wanted us to be a society.
That I agree. And I also feel that is a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice, yes. But just think about it. Here we're all, somewhat apart because of the nature of the country. However, how would it feel if we could not come together? If you were just in your house and you couldn't talk to any other devotees, you wouldn't be happy. If there was no BBT and you didn't have Prabhupada's books, you wouldn't be happy. And even if you don't get to go to a nice temple somewhere in India every now and again to see the deities, to associate with the devotees, to have a festival, to have a sangha, to go to the ILS, right? We would be very unhappy. When I'm in Toronto, there's a huge community, and everyone lives outside. Hardly anyone lives in the temple. They're all many Indian families, and they all work outside. They all have families. And I say to them, how would you feel if this temple didn't exist? If this temple didn't exist, how would you feel? And every one of them says, I would be very unhappy. And as much as I would be very unhappy, I criticize, I don't like the way the management, as if I were doing it, I would do it this way. Okay, would you do it? No. So what are we going to do about that? Somehow or other, these things have to be discussed. We have to find unity. It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice that we have to make. And it's a wise sacrifice because it's arrogance that causes us to think that I know the best way to do things and everyone who doesn't agree with me is wrong.
Heard that.
That's arrogance. And the first quality for advancing in spiritual life is humility. Arrogance and humility, they don't go well together. They don't exist together. So if I'm thinking that I know better than everybody else, by definition, I'm not qualified. I have to have a humble mood, and my humble mood may think, yes, I know, but at the same time as I think I know, I'm willing to discuss, and I'm willing to hear, and I'm willing to be convinced. In the Opulences of the Absolute chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, of truth I am Vada. Vada is debating or discussion with the intention of finding out the truth. Vitanda, which is not what Krishna says he is the art of debating, trying to win an argument. There's a difference. When someone wants to win an argument, they're not going to look for the truth. They're going to try to defeat their enemy. And then you find that people don't have academic integrity. They look through Prabhupada's books and they try to find sections of the books that will support their point of view. That's not necessarily the truth. The truth means I have to be willing to accept that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a better way of looking at it. Or maybe I'm only partially right. Maybe there's another part of right that I need to consider. Maybe I have part of the puzzle and somebody else has the other part of the puzzle. And so that willingness to take, just like when you look at the Pandavas were 5, and they were very different people. Bhima was always ready to like club him right now. Let's go to war right now. Forget this 13-year exile. I'm going to just go there and tear those guys apart. Arjuna was half and half. Yudhisthira was shanti, shanti, shanti. Just let's be peaceful here and do what we have to do. Don't worry, it'll all work out. So, but they discussed things and ultimately they followed Yudhisthira because he was the eldest. We also have to ultimately follow the GBC, and if the GBC makes a mistake, they'll be rectified eventually. Even I don't want to say rectified. Prabhupada made decisions and then changed his mind. I'll give you an example. When we first started doing Sankirtan in the late 70s, 75, 6, 74, 5, 6, and 7, was very big. Sankirtan book distribution was huge. In America, it was huge. And we had a lot of Sankirtan devotees doing Sankirtan in the airports, and they were collecting a lot of money and doing a lot of books. So Prabhupada was very happy with that. But in order to do that, in 1973, I think it was, or maybe the beginning of 74, some of the devotees started wearing non-devotee clothes and wigs because they had a shaved head, and they wanted to keep a shaved head, but they couldn't get to places if they looked too much like devotees. You have that similar dilemma here, right? So they solved the problem by wearing non-devotional clothes and wigs. And so some devotees went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, do you know what the Sankirtan devotees are doing? And Prabhupada said, what? And he said, they're wearing karmi clothes and they're wearing wigs. No one can tell they're devotees. They're not wearing tilak. They're out there. They look just like karmis. It's terrible. Prabhupada said, that's not good. They should wear devotional clothes. They should have flag. They should have tilak. They should be proud that they're devotees. So then these devotees went back to those devotees and said, Prabhupada said that you shouldn't wear that and you shouldn't do that. And so those Sankirtan devotees went back to Prabhupada. And they said, Srila Prabhupada, if we go out dressed as devotees full on, no one will let us into the airport. We won't be able to get into the airport. And that's where we distribute most of our books. And also people tend to shy away. They don't want to talk to us comfortably. So therefore we started wearing, non-devotee clothes and wigs so that we could keep a shaved head, but at the same time, kind of blend in. And so Prabhupada said, oh, okay, I understand. So you can dress in non-devotional clothes. He said, only don't look like hippies. Look like gentlemen. So Prabhupada said one thing, Prabhupada said another thing. But if you don't know the context and you don't know the whole story, then you get, Prabhupada said that you shouldn't wear non-devotee clothes. And then if you're really lucky, they'll tell you the story about how this Hindu people started working for a Muslim man who ran a factory, and the Muslim man said, okay, I'm taking over this factory, and no one can come to the factory with tilak or any kind of neck beads on at all, or I'm going to fire you. And so the next day, no one came except one man. One man wore tilak and neck beads, and then the man made an announcement, okay, so I see that this person, he's the only one that really has conviction in his religion. And so he's the only one that's allowed to wear tilak and neck beads. And the rest of you, I don't want to ever see you in tilak and neck beads again. So if you're really lucky, you'll get that story with the Prabhupada said, and then you become confused, what to do. So this is why I say we need to discuss. We need to understand the big picture. And what we can do from our position may be somewhat limited, but we should do whatever we can do. And one of the things that we can do is study Prabhupada's books deeply, because the principles upon which Prabhupada based his intention and his mood are in Prabhupada's books. And if you read Prabhupada's books in their entirety, then you will get an understanding of what Prabhupada's mission was, what he really wanted. And the details may change according to time, place, and circumstance. The details may change. Prabhupada hung up a sign in San Francisco that said Sunday Love Feast. If he was preaching in Vrindavan, he never would have hung up that sign. He did what he had to do where he was, according to when he was in Russia, he was incognito. I mean, he was wearing robes because he was an old Indian man. He could get away with anything. But he didn't speak in public. People had to sneak people in to meet him in the hotel. And he spoke to one boy, and that boy became a devotee, and that boy spread Krishna consciousness all over Russia. Yeah, and he passed away recently too. So there's another one.
I met him in Pune when he was released. He had come there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Prabhupada was flexible. Whatever he had to do, he did it. His personal ambition was nothing. He had no personal ambition. He only wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. That was his ambition. So I'm going to talk to you about two different kinds of study. These two kinds, personal study and group study. I don't know, what time do I have to turn into a pumpkin?
We have all the time.
Okay, but tomorrow is Janmashtami.
Sure.
So what time do people have to go to
What time
work
is it?
tomorrow? Tell me.
Is it in where?
It's 10 after 9 right now. So tell me.
It's 10 past 9.
I know what time it is. I'm
what
asking what
time?
time I should stop.
How much more is left? Let's put it that way.
You tell me. I asked you
Half an hour.
first. Okay. I asked you first. You just tell me. Okay. Okay. So we'll talk about these two. Well, maybe a little quickly, but we'll talk about these two things. There's another kind, systematic group study, which is more like Bhakti Shastri stuff, which you do to some extent here. But Bhakti Shastri study is in terms of a systematic attempt to get an overview of the books. We're not going to talk about that here because it's going on in a different way. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is a system called personal reading, a prayerful reading rather, which is a good system for studying on your own. So prayerful reading is more of an attempt to allow the Shastra to get into your heart, to gain association with Srila Prabhupada's books. It's not really about covering the material. It's about uncovering the material, okay? So we're just going to go through some steps to help you with this system of study. And if you take it seriously, you'll find it's very powerful. So one is just decide where you're going to read. What book you're going to read, what section of the book, what book you're going to read. You just have to pick some reading material. You also have to decide how long you will read for. And it's totally up to you. You can say, I have an hour I'm going to read, I have a half hour I'm going to read, whatever it is. I'm doing this kind of quick, so you have to really listen. Go to a place where you can be alone with the book, uninterrupted and quiet. Now that means something, okay? That means no computer. It means no phone. And you have to accept that the world will go on for as long as you're going to read. Even if someone calls you, you don't want to hear it. So your phone's off. It's not even vibrating. It's not flashing lights. It's nowhere near you. It's gone. In the other room somewhere, okay? And your computer probably better too. Just try to use a pen and a pencil if you still know how to write. It's very, very important because the computer has a certain centrifugal force that kind of calls you and says, log on, see if you got any mail. So you want to have water there. You want to have gone to the bathroom. You want to be well rested. You don't want to have to walk out of the room because as soon as you walk out of the room, then you think, well, maybe I should just do this before I read because, the laundry, I have to put it in and I have to take it out and I have to iron it and I have to just call this one person before I start to read and then you're finished. So you want to really take care of everything and you want to just go into that room with that book and you want to have everything covered. You want to be well rested. You want to make yourself comfortable but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. Okay? So, don't sit in this soft, cushy chair that leans back and then find yourself with a book on your stomach. Wake up an hour later. So you want to be able to read without any distraction. That means you have to take care of all these things before you even start, okay? Then once you do that, then you begin by cultivating an appropriate attitude, and that may mean like chanting prayers, okay? So just like before Bhagavatam class, you chant certain prayers, evoking the power of the Bhagavatam, evoking the power of the Guru, so that you can approach. And if I don't know how many of you do deity worship, but when you do deity worship, also you do a thing, Buddha Suddhi, it's called, where you kind of meditate on yourself as a spirit soul, aspiring to have a relationship with the deity as the form of Krishna. And so that attitude of study, of respect for the book is very helpful. And then before starting, you may offer prayers. I'm going to give you some prayers in a minute. When you are ready, begin reading, and you can read aloud or silently, whatever works best for you. Some people find like reading aloud it engages two senses and not just one. Read until a word or a phrase or an idea strikes you or catches your attention, and strive to understand it deeply. In other words, stop there and ponder that thought. Write it down. Write down some thoughts about it. If you have a question about it, write down the question so you can ask it later. Whatever it takes, you process that. Okay, so make sure you understand what you're reading, and you understand how it implies in your life, and we'll talk about that later. And then once you do that, when your time is up, you can go on after you've found a section. If you've finished processing it and you still have time, then just go on reading. When your time is up, offer obeisances and try to remember and be grateful for any realizations that have been offered to you. To assimilate what you have read and realize in your life and share it with others. So try to take that thing that you found in the book, that understanding that you got in your reading, assimilate it into your life. What does it have to do with me? Does this tell me something? Does this have relevance to something I'm going through? And then another thing to do is share it with somebody. Because if you tell it to somebody, you'll remember it better. So go to somebody and call up somebody and say, you know what I read today? It was really great. I was reading the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I found this great verse by Prahlad Maharaj, and it said that the whole world should have peace by worshiping God, because only by worshiping God will the envy in their heart that causes enmity go away. So whatever it is, try to share it, because if you share it, you'll remember it better, and also it gives you something to talk about besides what's happening in the political field. And you should read Srila Prabhupada's books in this fashion as much as you can. You might not be able to do it every day. Maybe you want to do it once a week. But this particular type of reading opens the books up in a different way. And it's very, very powerful. I think, okay. Okay, there's a little bit more here. Okay, so these prayers by Sanatana Goswami, anybody familiar with these prayers? No. Okay, I'm gonna chant these prayers. We're gonna chant them responsively, and then I will read the translation. I can give you a copy of them. But they're really beautiful prayers. They're written by Sanatana Goswami. They're from the Krishna Lila Stava, and they're prayers to the Bhagavatam. And you'll be amazed to hear how he sees the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is why I say, anyone who says you shouldn't read the Bhagavatam, you really need to show him these prayers. Okay, so let's chant them responsively. Sarva Shastra Bhipiyusha
Sarva Shastra Bhipiyusha
Sarva Vedeka Satpala
Sarva Vedeka Satpala
Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya
Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya
Sarva Lokaika Drikprada
Sarva Lokaika Drikprada
Sarva Bhagavata Prana
Sarva Bhagavata Prana
Srimad Bhagavata Prabho
Srimad Bhagavata Prabho
Kali Dvandvo Ditaditya
Kali Dvando Didaditya
Shri Krishna Parivartita
Shri Krishna Parivartita
O Srimad Bhagavatam,
O Srimad Bhagavatam.
O nectar churned from the ocean. Just let me read it alone because it'll take a long time.
Sure.
O nectar churned from the ocean of all the Vedic scriptures. O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas. O you who are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world. O life breath of the Vaishnav devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned among us. Paramananda Pataya
Paramananda Pathaya
Premna Vakshaksharayate
Prema Vashyakcharayate
Sarvada Sarvasevyaya
Sarvada Sarvasevyaya
Shri Krishnaya Namostute
Shri Krishnaya Namostute.
O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Lord Krishna. Mad eka bandhu mad sangin
Madeka Bandhu Mad Sangin
Mad guru man mahadana
Madguru Mad Mahadana
Mad nishtharaka mad bhagya
Madnishtaraka Mad Bhagya
Mad ananda namostute.
Madananda Namostute.
O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadayin
Sadhu Sadhu Tadayin
Atinis chochataraka
Adinicho Chataraka
Anamuncha kadachin mang
Anamuncha Kadachinma
Premna hrit kantayospura.
Premna Hritkantayospura.
O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the very fallen, please don't ever leave me. Please become manifest in my heart and my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. That's the last one. Aren't they amazing?
Thank you very much for showing it to us.
But you see how this devotee sees the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not, oh book, I have to read the first chapter today. It's a whole different mentality. And if we cultivate this mentality in regards to Srimad Bhagavatam in particular and all the books of Prabhupada in general, we will find that they talk to us in a different way.
Absolutely.
So, getting the most out of what you read, first read, and this is just a review, and or hear, then repeat and explain it to others, ask relevant questions, discuss from all angles, apply what you learn in your life, and share experiences. So this formula in general for reading is something that will make the reading stay with you and will make the reading have application in your life, because otherwise we tend to look at it as kind of something that's happening over there. To people in far days of yore, when 6-year-olds could go out into the forest and meditate for 6 months and stand on their toes and breathe once every 3 weeks, and we think, I can never do that. That doesn't have anything to do with me, but it's a nice story. I like it. Dhruva was a great devotee. But we're not supposed to see the Bhagavatam that way. The Bhagavatam is supposed to talk to us. So we have to use it in our life. And that's the next part of what we're going to talk about very quickly, I'm not even going to do this part. I'm going to skip this and go to here. So there are a list of 7 different filters or lenses which you should look through when you read. And talking about reading in a group, this is a very good way to conduct a group reading. If you're reading together as a group on Skype or whatever, and everybody reads a verse and then you read the purport, and when you complete a section or a story, if you go through these, you'll find that you know the story much better, and you know the messages of the story much better, what's happening in the Bhagavatam, or chapter, or whatever section you choose to use it for. So ordinarily I would go through each of these in detail, and I have some discussion points, but we just don't have time. I'm on the 39th slide of a 100-slide presentation, so it's not going to happen. Okay, so knowledge and understanding is the first level, where we just kind of learn who's who, and what everybody has to do with everybody, what's going on in the story, when it takes place, where it takes place, what the question was. Most of the stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam are inspired by a question, by some devotee to some devotee. And we want to know what that question was. Why is this story being told? What does it have to do with the circumstance? Why is it in the Bhagavatam? What's going on here? And then the next question is, what does it have to do with me? Mm-hmm. Right? What does it have to do with me? What can I learn from this story that has application in my life? How does it impact me? And how can I use it to make my spiritual life stronger, make my spiritual life better? The next one is preaching application. How can I share it with somebody else? Is there something in this story that I can give to somebody else and that will inspire them in Krishna consciousness? Maybe there's something in this story that I shouldn't apply, that I can't give to this audience, but I can give it to this audience. So which audience should I give it, and how should I give it? Yes, your hand up, or you're just waving to me? Okay, making shadow puppets on the wall. Okay, so how does the story increase my faith and conviction? How does it help me to become stronger in my devotional service? And speak to my doubts so that my faith becomes strong? How could the questions that are answered in this story eliminate my own questions and make me more clear about my realization that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does great things for his devotees? And Prabhupada's mood and mission. What did Prabhupada, in the purports especially, we see what was Prabhupada's mood, what was his mission, why did he give us this? What can we understand from Prabhupada's ultimate desire, what he wanted for Krishna consciousness, what he wanted for us, what's there about Prabhupada, and what is Prabhupada to reveal to us in his purports. And then evaluation, which in my opinion is the most important, is looking at these things, because now I'm going to have a whole bunch of them when I do this over and over again, and evaluating what works in one circumstance and not works in another, especially if you give advice to devotees. Because very often when you're in a leadership position, devotees come and they ask you questions. And they expect you to solve all the problems of their life. And that's not really possible. But you have to evaluate what they're saying and points that you can give them from the books, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that will help them in their life and not hinder them. And I'll give you an example. When I first became a devotee, all my God brothers and God sisters came from families that were not devotees. Okay, they were meat eaters. They were not, even in many cases, not even favorable to Krishna consciousness, quite unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. They were scared. They didn't know Krishna at all, and they didn't know Prabhupada. They didn't know the Hare Krishna movement, and they didn't know what the heck we were doing. You know, all of a sudden we're moving in, and there's even a cartoon I have on my office door, and there's a picture of two parents standing in a doorway, and there's a boy sitting on the bed, and he's got a suitcase and a sika, and he's wearing a dhoti, and the parents are saying, "We just want you to know, if you go back to being a drug addict, we'll support you 100%. So people were really uptight about having their children join the Hare Krishna movement. But we were very zealous, and we were very, very enthusiastic, and we were very fanatic. And so sometimes a mother in particular would be very supportive, or try to support, or try to understand what her child was doing. And so she'd invite the boy home, and she'd cook for him. She'd read about vegetarianism. She'd say, "Listen, I cooked vegetarianism. I read, what it means, and I didn't taste the food. I chanted Hare Krishna while I was cooking, and I didn't use any meat, fish, or eggs, and I tried really hard to make your favorite preparations, as best I could." And the boy would say, "Mom, I can't eat anything you cook because you're meat-eating malecha." and all your pots are contaminated and I can't eat here. So how do you think the mother felt? So that wasn't very good evaluation. Philosophically, it was true. Practically speaking, in terms of evaluating how to help somebody else in Krishna consciousness or how Prabhupada wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, it was totally wrong. Totally ignorant. But we were, we didn't think. Now we have to think. We can't not think, okay? So that certainly may be true that we don't want to eat from milechas, but our parents cooked with love, making an attempt to serve Krishna. Being harsh like that is not what Prabhupada would have done. It's not what Prabhupada would have done. So being able to evaluate situations like that, people come to you with serious problems in their life. If we just give them the hard party line, they may go away and never come back. And Prabhupada would never do that. Never. So evaluation is very important. Academic and moral integrity, I kind of talked to you about a little bit, that idea of going through the books and just picking out those things that support your point of view, as opposed to looking at the overall messages that Prabhupada's giving us in his books, and how, Prabhupada may have changed his mind over time, and why did he do that, and what was the cause of him changing his mind, and trying to find the truth, not just trying to support what I think. So those are them. And I think I should stop now.